The Portland residential housing market is on the move right now. We've got higher interest rates and an increase in the supply of homes to purchase. How have these two big factors had an effect on our market? Well, let's go through the numbers right now and see what they tell us. I'm Ron Milligan with RE/MAX Select here in Portland's Pearl District, and I've got the latest weekly statistics for you. So let's start with the supply side of the supply and demand equation. The number of available listings increased now for the third or fourth week in a row. We're now at 2552 active listings versus last week at this time we had 2390. For a little bit of context, I went back to last year, and the increase in the number of available listings from last year to this year was 11.5%. Significant amount, considering that about a month ago that number was reversed and we actually had 11% fewer listings this year versus last year. So I think that that's kind of an interesting number that we have there. If we're looking at the demand side, so what are buyers doing, what are they up to, the number of new transactions, so the number of new pending deals, was actually pretty good. It's still kind of a strong number. It came in at 901 versus previous weeks, as you can see here. When I went back to last year, though, the number was a bit higher at 1,015. So last year's market was a little more robust. There was more buyer demand. And then we can feel that too in the number of showings that we're seeing for our listings. We're seeing hot properties sit longer on the market before they get an acceptable offer. And we're actually seeing price reductions on certain properties. Now that could be the result of sellers who are being too aggressive with their pricing, not realizing what's actually happened on the market, and they're being forced to retract on their pricing. But we're also seeing when that they do get down to where market value should be, closer to more of a realistic number, they're still going fast. And sometimes they're going faster and over the asking price once they drop the prices back. So buyer demand still is there, but it's a lot less than we've been seeing in the previous months and certainly versus last year. So how did the homes that sold do on the market? Well, we had 692 homes that sold. Last year at this time, that number was 749. So, more homes last year, but not significantly more homes. And part of that could be that we're still dealing with the homes that went under contract, 3 to 6 weeks ago, when interest rates were starting to rise and people were rushing to the market to get a property locked in at lower rates before rates went even further. That was back when rates were kind of rapidly ramping up. Those homes that did sell, though, they did pretty well. 13 days on the market on average versus 17 days last year. And the median was at 5 this year. Same thing last year, 5 median days on market. Average sale price was up versus last week, which is nice. That number came in at $648,133. Well, at least it's nice for sellers. $648,133 versus last year at this time, $568,432. That represents about a 14% increase in the average sale price for roughly the same week last year and this year. The median came in at $565 versus last year's $500,000, a 13% increase in the median sale price. So I do have the April numbers from RMLS, and that has the average year-over-year average from last year to this year, the first 4 months of last year, the first 4 months of this year. That number came in at just over 11%, and I will be going through those numbers in a video a little later. So the last thing about the homes that did sell this last week is that on average they sold for 106% over the asking price. That's still a really strong number, and that could point back to a bit of that frenzy when rates were on the rise and buyers were really motivated to get under contract before rates went even higher. So that's a wrap on last week's market statistics and how housing did in the Portland metro area on the whole. If you've got your own thoughts, feel free to share them down below in the comments, or feel free to ask me any questions that you might have about the information that I've got for you. And then watch this channel for updates on interest rates, on demographics, and how millennials might be saving our market in the next few years, and some information on what builders are up to. Those videos are all coming down the line. And on top of that, we also have our monthly market statistics from RMLS, which has got some information that's difficult for us to glean from the MLS, but they compile for us, which is pretty handy. So those will all be coming up. And then, as always, reach out to me if you have questions about what's going on in your neck of the woods. Also, feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel. and we will see you next week.